Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to Out of the Park Baseball 25, episode 14. We're just about ready to begin the season. There's still a couple weeks to go, but don't worry, your time will be there in a couple of minutes. As we're wrapping up spring training, here's a few things on where we stand and a couple changes that I've made off camera from the end of the last episode to now to make sure that we are getting to that start of the season here any moment. First off, the budget did go up a little bit from last year, from 110 million to 116 million. So there's 6 million more to play with than there had. But even after making some moves, right now our player payroll budget for the coming season is 63 million, where last season I brought it way down to 47 by the end of the season. Reality was, though, we spent most of the year at about 55, so we're up about 8 million from where we were with that, with a budget increase of about 6 million, meaning we've used what we've got. And in terms of projection, there are some good things. We are absolutely bringing in more money this year than last year. The biggest difference, well, it's two things. One, I lowered the ticket price by $2. That 7% drop is leading to nearly double the revenue from what we had, or 50% increase anyway on the revenue on what we had, because attendance per game is set to go up by 6K with that lower price. Season tickets going up by a couple thousand with that lower price. And as a result, the average revenue per game is going up by more than $100,000 over 81 games. That's a lot. That is a big, substantial difference. And in terms of that projection, the other big factor was the local media. Funny thing about the local media and getting into the Portland market and away from a place where there's a total disconnect with the owner and people just don't want to be there and don't want to support. By moving to Portland, our local media, we have our own issues with that one. A team like the Blazers are completely inaccessible unless you go see them in person, or you have a very, very, very specific TV package that most people just don't have, myself included. I get to see them on national broadcasts, which is a rare thing these days. A very rare thing these days. So mostly I'm somebody who has to catch highlights of my local team because I can't see them on TV. And it makes sense that there would be a new, far more lucrative local media deal going from 8 million to 21 million this year after leaving that area and entering Portland. And because in real life, the same sort of things happen, even though we have our complications with an actual marketable team like the Blazers, NBA, the Seattle Kraken, NHL, Seattle, Portland. No, just like Seattle doesn't support the Blazers, we don't support the Kraken. Actually, we kind of do. I mean, there's definitely a fan base here, but our Winterhawks, who were regularly beating the Seattle second tier team, right, regularly beating them over the years. That Winterhawks right now is playing for a championship as we speak, yet again, second tier, but yet again, many, many times over the years, they're virtually in the top four every year and often competing for a championship, and here they are yet again. But anyway, the Kraken just got a new deal locally, a media deal that's going to make them way more accessible than the Blazers are. So, if only that team could get sold, because we have our own ownership issues there. Coming back to this topic, though, we are looking at a much better projection on what the income's going to be, which should see an increase to the budget come next year. I understand that budgeting is largely based off of how previous years have gone and not necessarily how the coming year is set to go, and then you base one year on the previous year, and so on and so forth. So at the moment, our 116 million, we're expected to be spending about 117 the way things are panning out right now. I have completed 2 more Phase B style deals with that, good prospect. Not necessarily the top of the organization prospect, but that next group, that group right behind him, the B plus instead of the A, or maybe an A minus instead of the A, but really solid prospects. It's not to say that they're going to become that as pros, but filling that out with an organization that was right at the bottom of the farm rankings. So the first one we picked up was Rodolfo Quintana, 17, and that's the thing. I think I have learned something. I'll get to it in a second. But Quintana, okay, so 17, Dominican Republic, contact potential of 75, avoid Ks of 75, so he's going to have a great hand-eye coordination there, and power's not going to be great or anything like that, but, this is somebody who can really, really hit for average ground ball hitter, though, but, again, as a first baseman, he'll be okay. He'll learn his position, might translate as a DH, but we're talking about a very solid prospect. The other one we picked up is Juan Barrera, a starting pitcher. I've got both of these guys coming in for A ball for the coming season, and this is another one of those woohoo, looks pretty good. We're falling in the 3.5 to 4-star range for both of them. Looks like he could have max stuff, a very, very good fastball and changeup, so a very strong 2-pitch combination with really, really difficult to hit stuff. If we can get enough movement and control, this is a strong candidate for top of the lineup kind of guy, second pitcher or something along those lines. Really happy to get both of these pickups. And in terms of what we gave away, it's Phase B stuff. It's 1.5, 2-star kind of guys, and then it's 1 to 2, 2.5 star prospects. For most of those, it wasn't even the guys that are close. It wasn't the guys that are AAA, almost Major League ready. It was guys that were like this, that were young, that were 17, 18-year-old prospects that have 2.5-star potential versus the guys we're getting back that are that 3.5 to 4-star potential. So really, really increasing the odds of somebody who can make it. One player included in this deal for Barrera to get it over the line actually ended up saving us some money. We were a bit too deep at the middle infield with talent that wasn't necessarily talented. 2-star Rosario, the weakest player in terms of the attributes, the weakest player that was on the senior squad roster, and we saved like $2.6 million from that deal. So with acquisitions we've made, I was okay getting rid of Rosario for that, especially when it saved that $2.6 million. It took us from 28th on payroll and spending a bit too much, brought us back down to 30th on payroll in the league, so back to dead last. We are spending less than everybody else, and we are getting set for the future. Now, the thing about Phase B is, under the hood, we're bringing in a lot of good Major League prospects, but not the top ones, not the ones that are closest, not the ones that are nearly Major League ready, not the ones that are projected to be the All-Stars or the Hall of Famers. That's Phase C to start to acquire those players. So for now, we have not made substantial gains when it comes to our minor league system ranking. We're still 26th of 30, but we have made gains. We're up to 26th. That is higher than where we had been, and we have made some acquisitions. Denzel Clark is still our top guy. He's ranked 50th now. He was 90-something a year ago, and he's set to play at the Major League level this year. As a rookie, he still counts on this list. After playing his rookie season, he'll disappear from this list. Our ranking is going to plummet once again, but it does change on a yearly basis, especially as guys either become a bust or become what they're prospected to become. Max Wagner is another one that's very close, nearly ready to come up. It's more about freeing up some space for him. He had a strong year last year, but he'll be in AAA this year. Hopefully he can produce at that level. He's 23, so he's pretty dang close to ready. So one more year from getting him out there. But then, new pickup, Juan Barrera, comes in. Kate Povich, our new starting pitcher, the guy we got at Rule 5 draft, comes in pretty high on this list. He was just on the edge of the rankings and is still right there on the edge of the rankings. But we have guys like Jose Rodriguez, Juan Ramirez. A lot of these players in this range are the ones that we have picked up, the ones that we have acquired through this Phase B. So we really have replaced what was, outside of Denzel Clark, a really poor group. Now is, looking a little bit better. And spring training doesn't mean anything. You can get a little excitement out of spring training, but we're talking very, very little. The lineups that are put out on a daily basis and the hunt for wins really does not exist. But it's never a bad thing to see a terrible team go 12-13 and be at the top of their division during spring training when we're supposed to be a terrible team that struggled to win games a year ago. If we can hang out anywhere near 500 in the coming season, that is going to be fantastic for us. And we're getting close to where that opening day comes. It is in just a couple of days. Just a couple more days to go. New year, new list, and a day later, things are recalculated. Probably just players kind of removed from the list, but we're up even higher now. 23rd in the list. In terms of points, it's a lot tighter through here than it is at the bottom where it's just a real struggle. Denzel Clark gets the majority of them. He's now up to 30th on that list. Wagner is up to 88th, so he's climbed into that top 100. With opening day, the waiver wire is suddenly a very, very busy place. There is a lot of players out here that could do something, that could be significant. We got 3 relievers coming in at 3 stars, and none of them getting paid anything crazy. There's an $8 million. You don't want to touch that one. There's a $5 million reliever. Definitely stay away from that. But there's options out here. We got some 2-star guys. We got some others that I have no idea how they've even made rosters at some point or any point. But we've got some selections to make. I've got my own players to either trade or put onto that wire and see what happens. The thing about putting most of them on the wire is there's a lot here. A lot of what's here is better than what I would be dropping onto the wire, so there's a good chance that they would clear and actually get pushed back down to the minor leagues without penalty, but it is definitely taking a risk. Assuming I don't make any moves on the waiver wire, and I probably will. Here's how we look so far. I've put 2 players on the waiver wire. Esteban Florial, who we got off of waivers last year after hitting 215 for Cleveland, and then he hit 193 for us. He's better than that, but just did not perform better than that. And now we've got too many outfielders, so we're going to run the risk that we lose him. If he does end up clearing waivers, then we still have him as a piece to be able to trade with later. Andahar is the other one. Andahar did end up on our Major League roster throughout last season, but he hit 192. We did get him at AAA for a chunk of last season, but he's out of options. He'd been with Pittsburgh the year before, definitely did better with Pittsburgh than he did with us in a relatively similar number of at-bats. Not a good enough defender anyway. Contact is the only thing, and that means he should have a better average than he has. Last year's a bit of an anomaly. I don't think anybody's going to want to sign him. I've tried to trade him multiple times. He seems to be a little bit of a negative value. The waiver wire, very busy with 68 players heading into opening day. I've made claims on 3. I was only planning on doing 2 of those 3, but I couldn't decide between 2 players. It was like, screw it. We'll claim both pitchers, especially relievers. Kind of a dime a dozen sort of position. There's lots of them out there, and the waiver wire is a quick, easy way and place to alternate those players, and it's a pretty regular thing. And then you throw them back down in AAA, and if they clear, and anyway, Jojo Romero, 3-star, $2 million left-handed reliever, 28 years of age. There's three-star guys. He's the young one. The others are a little bit older. I'm gonna pass on the others. Hyamps, like, he's decent. He's definitely got some quality. You almost want to pick him up. But he's already 30, so he's not a long-term fill. And he's making that little bit more at 2.8. And our scouting accuracy is low on him. So that's a pass. And then I ended up going for not one, but 2 starters. We do have that 5th slot to fill. And so we're kind of looking to do it this way through one of these guys. Carlos Hernandez, 28, 55, 55, 50. With decent enough stamina. Not the greatest of numbers last year, but he's making 2.1. And then Bryce Wilson. Not yet fully at his max, but his stuff locked in at a 45. But he's got really good control that can get even better. He's got good movement to it. And he put up good numbers with Pittsburgh a couple years back. Okay, not great numbers there, but with the last 2 years for Milwaukee, put in solid 2.5 ERA kind of numbers, and kind of forced my hand. It's like, I can't let this guy go. He's 27 and popular. He's got a good national popularity. 2.8 million. Day later, there's definitely a handful of players that have been claimed, but we still lead the way on these 3, and it's not likely that we get overshadowed on that. It's reverse order of rankings, and as we were nearly at the bottom, there's only 3 teams that can go over the top of us on this one and claim a player above us. Well, in the case of Romero, the reliever, somebody else ended up claiming him above us, so we did get bumped off on that one, but we did execute claims on Hernandez and Wilson successfully. So for one, that's definitely going to bring in a sum of extra salary that we have to deal with, but that 100% takes care of the starter issue that we have, that vacancy that we have to fill. And by the way, even though first day has already happened, it's almost a week until our first game. So we've got a little bit of a window here to get our roster right. We now have 2 players too many, so we will have some decisions to make on how to free things up a little further yet. So both Andahar and Florial have cleared waivers, so they have now been designated for assignment down at AAA, which is suddenly a busy roster. So there are some players that I could move on. I think I've got maybe one more Phase B type deal ahead of us with some of those guys that are fringe maybe being included in something along the lines for those deals. Really the only weaknesses we have AAA are catchers, Logan Davidson, and there's a number of 2-star players, but there's a lot of fringe major league prospects at AAA that seem to be ready for call-ups. I still got to find a spot for Bryce Wilson. We did get the other one in, moving another pitcher down, and you can see that major league roster is looking so much better, more than majority of this thing a year ago. Maybe not majority. Almost half was 2-star players. We're down to 2. Rengifo and Nick Allen. Not going to be the only deal that I make, because I still have those pieces, all those extra AAA level pieces out there. But Alexis Cerna, who for us is a 3.5-star guy, we have a low scouting evaluation on him. The OSA has him at 5 stars. It's a much better high or normal evaluation, whichever it is. So we're talking about a really strong prospect. The players that I'm giving up for him are the weakest ones in the system. I barely even tapped into our 2-star guys. And the extra piece they want to get him is Juan Campos, 2-star prospect. That's a big win for us, and it's away from our rebuilding rivals in the Phillies. So it looks I've got at least one more deal coming now, just a few more days from our first game of the season, though technically the season has begun. Next up in this deal is finally putting us somewhere we need to be. So Emil Morales, third base, rookie league, 18-year-old prospect, but 4-star prospect. Young enough / old enough that we're looking at a pretty decent prospect who can play first, who could play third, who can play left, maybe right field, and has pretty good potential. To get Morales, the extra piece, Brennan Malone, double A, fringe prospect. But the pieces included in the deal is what's going to make this one good. This is clearing up that AAA garbage. The 1.5-star guys at the AAA, about $4 million that we want to dump. All 6 players at AAA. So we've got Carlos Perez, a 1.5-star, 34-year-old catcher. He's not going anywhere. Logan Davidson, 27-year-old, 1.5-star shortstop. These are leftovers from the old farm system. Jared Young, 2-star, AAA, but 29. Andahar, guy we've been stuck with, who's got that major league experience, who hit 192 last year. Florial, who we got on the waiver wire for nothing and is costing us a bit this year. He's okay. I mean, he is a 2.5-star kind of guy, but he hit 193 and we didn't have room for him and we have to pay him. So now we don't have to. And then Malone. I mean, there is some okay pieces here, but pieces that cost us money. We're going to free up $3.1 million, and we actually had a slight negative, so this puts us back into, hey, finances are suddenly okay, and we're getting a very strong prospect in return. Happy with this deal. This is a deal that moves the needle on the farm system and moves the needle on us playing the budget game. And just like that, I think we're ready to go. We now have $2.5 million to spare. Our trade reputation is getting quite high, and we've continually added piece after piece after piece. We've cut the AAA roster down to 30, so it's not crazy bloated anymore. I think I'm ready for day one. We've got 26 on the senior roster, though we do have J.P. Crawford coming back from a broken hand. It's going to be 3 to 4 months, so the infield is going to be hurting a little bit. Lugbauer is somebody who is going to go on to waiver wire here in a few days when he comes off injury. He was our backup. Well, he wasn't our backup catcher. He was a AAA guy. He'll get bumped back down to AAA. He was on the 40-man. And Newcomb, who was out for a couple weeks. Newcomb is somebody who's probably going to end up on the waiver wire, but maybe not. Actually had pretty decent numbers with 2.5 ERA last season. Yeah, we might be trying to hang on to Newcomb for now. Shouldn't be too hard to find space, but our entire pitching staff is 2.5 stars or better. The whole pitching staff. As for the batters, all but 2 positions. That's Nick Allen and Rengifo. Rengifo is a 2.5 when he plays in his natural position, but he is playing at second base, so it bumps him down a little bit from where he was. And we do have some talent at AAA waiting in the wings. I mean, there was almost nothing a year ago, and now we're looking at a majority of our AAA squad is guys that are capable at a major league level of stepping in and contributing to us. So we have so much more depth than before, and we've eliminated a lot of the worst talent that was at the AAA level. 30 players there, 25, 25, 26, 21, and 22 at the rookie levels, but of course their season starts after the draft anyway, so we don't need to worry about that for now. We're good. We are set to go for the coming season. I'm excited by the level of progress that we have made and just how much better we could and should be for the coming season. So here is our lineup. According to our manager, day one, I am going to have to do some scouting again to get these all back to very high. But we've got Mason Miller, J.P. Sears, Cade Povich, Bryce Wilson, and Mitch Spence. Wilson, who we picked up off of waivers, gets bumped up to 4th in the rotation. Carlos Hernandez, the other one we picked up on waivers, comes in as a reliever. Those two are actually our highest paid. Amazingly, no one on the pitching staff is making $3 million now. Mason Miller is going to be due. He's got 1 more year left on automatic renewal before he goes into arbitration. In fact, we only have 2 players on 3. Make that 3 players on arbitration right now. So that's still favorable contract range for our pitching staff for at least 1 more year before we're going to have to start making difficult decisions. And that entire group at 2.5 stars plus. As for our lineups, Starling Marte, 1 year. We're hanging on to him, yes, but then out he goes, right? He is just here to get the deal over the line, and that's going to free up 20 million in the coming season. So with the arbitration players we do have, we're looking pretty good for next year of still being good. Marte is not going to be here at the end of the year. We're not going to re-sign him. If I can before the trade deadline, I'll move him on, but I doubt that that's going to happen because it's a negative contract. It's a negative value. He's okay, sure, and he's that big known quantity who's had a good career, but he's 36 now and winding down and getting paid way too much for what he's able to do, what he's able to contribute. But we do that with the deal. And I only did the deal because I knew he was going into that last year, that we'd only have to pay him for 1 year, and then he walks. And taking that negative contract on in the short term was a big help to us long term, because it's through him that we've picked up Vientos, who's got 1 year of professional baseball, so he's on a minimum contract for quite a few years before we need to worry about him getting paid something substantial, and he's a long-term answer for us at first base. You can see, though, we got a lot of guys with lineup duty, and we're also very young. Other than Marte, like Austin Meadows at 29 is the old man. Rengifo at 28 is the old man. Rengifo is somebody we want to move on from, though. His arbitration in 5 years of pro, there's your one you want to part ways with, or not go through arbitration and let him go at the end of the year. One of those two factors. So 25 million freeing up. I don't think he's got a positive value right now. He's probably got a negative value, but like I said, he is a 2.5 star guy. He's just playing out of position right now. But we're young. We've got mostly favorable contracts. Things are much, much better on that front. We're in a much stronger position than a year ago. And a year ago at this time, it was all 2-star guys, except for Ruiz, who at the time was 2.5, maybe 3 stars. Oh gosh, who else did we have? Langoliers at 2.5. I mean, that was about it. Like the whole rest of the lineup was 2-star guys. So we've done well. We have done well to turn this around. We're going to score a lot more runs than we did a year ago, where our pitching staff was going to do pretty similar to what it did a year ago. So we had a decent, acceptable pitching staff that wasn't too bad, and now we've got a lineup that's not too bad and has more room to improve. Clark coming up is a big addition. Ruiz has gotten better. Geloff has gotten better. He was the other one. He was 2.5, now 3 stars. Langoliers got better. We signed Jeffers, and he will be on arbitration this year, but he's the backup to Langoliers, so could be okay. Lineup as it looks: Ruiz leading off, makes sense with all those stolen bases. Austin Meadows batting second against right-handers. Geloff, Clark coming in as a rookie, number 4 in the lineup. Vientos, Rengifo, Marte, Langoliers, and Allen. We're against lefties. You got Geloff going second, Vientos, then Clark, then Langoliers, Marte, Hernandez getting into the lineup instead of Meadows, and then Nevin and Nick Allen. Good chance for everybody to get a large number of at-bats for the year. One thing I'm noticing about our lineup is the lack of lefties. We got a switch hitter in Rengifo and a lefty in Austin Meadows. Otherwise, we are hurting on that front, that particular front. But I'm less concerned about that in the short term. Long term, absolutely. Right now, I don't care if we lose a few more games because we can't match up against some pitchers. We're not in the business of winning a whole lot of ball games just yet. Seeing improvement is nice and sort of not nice because the draft is helpful, Definitely not every day that you're able to head into an opening day matchup and see at least a few matchups being favorable to you. You can see just how far off we are from everybody else. They've got everybody that 2.5 stars or better. They've got 5 stars. We don't have anything like that, but definitely better than we were a year ago. Ruiz is playing second base to start this. Okay. Geloff's not great either. He's out of position. That is his base, or his position. Could we just have 1 hole in defense instead of 2? Switch them up? Wouldn't that be something? Well, we had a nice clean first inning as we head into the bottom of the first, and Vientos and Geloff have both managed to get on base with Denzel Clark with his first at-bat in the major leagues. What will he do with that at-bat? Not much. Get jammed, make a dribbler to second base, and end the inning. Oh, not end the inning. That's 2 outs now. Ooh, okay. Langoliers at the plate. Get a second chance at doing something. We did advance the runners at least out of that, and that one dribbles just over the head of shortstop for an RBI, a 2 RBI single. And we lead 2-0. A third of the way into the game, it's now 3-1 as both teams have added to the score line, and we still have ourselves a lead. Not something we saw much of in the few games we watched last season. Unfortunately, after a big 5th and 6th inning, 6 runs for St. Louis has given them the lead here as we head into the 7th inning, and we head into the bottom of the 9th, still trailing 7-3. So it's looking not likely to get an opening day win here. But we'll give this bottom of the 9th a chance to see what we can do. In terms of hits, we're level. In terms of errors, we've only had 1 today. Nothing too bad as that one goes deep to left and out. Nick Allen at the plate, so we are at the bottom of the lineup. But in terms of those initial opening day stats, no home runs for that. It was Langoliers with the 2 RBI single, and Ruiz added in an RBI himself at some stage. I'll take 9 hits and 3 runs. That's a pretty decent day. That's a pretty decent outing for the offense. Something that's been pretty weak for us. Mason Miller, our best pitcher, did well through 4, but fell apart. Our long reliever who came in, whoever that was, assuming that it was a long reliever coming in, they didn't get anything done themselves. Some weaknesses. There's obviously still going to be weaknesses, and we're still not going to win half of our games this season. We are likely to win more, and there are signs of that even here, even with the loss today. But that is the season open, and unlike last year, where we had to really start that phase A and then move into that phase B, we've done that, and we suddenly don't have a lot of spares. We've used up those extra pieces. We've flipped value. We're going to see a lot less deals this year, which means this season is actually going to end up going a lot faster than last season did. There's going to almost be more time being spent in off-season mode than in season mode. In-season mode is going to be largely letting the team play, go through, dealing with injuries, making, subtle moves here and there, keeping finances right, keeping an eye on the waiver wire. But even then, keeping an eye on the waiver wire, we're not going to be doing as much of that this year. We went from a ton of 2-star talent to we have the 2.5-star talent. That's some of what gets put on the waiver wire. A lot of it's 2-star guys, but the group we were grabbing last year, that 2.5-star group that we were grabbing last year, we have that already. So how do you make room for these guys? How do you make room for those pieces? Most of the time you just don't. Most of the time those players are going to end up clearing the waiver. Due to that, there's going to be a whole lot less movement now. We wheeled and dealed our way into... We do have some talent waiting in the wings. We do have some talent at the senior level. We do have some potential. We have changed the landscape of this team. We're not done. We've got a long ways to go still. But the initial stages, they are done. That's going to change the long-term landscape of how we play going forward. I'm not going to spend all my time wheeling and dealing. We'll still spend some time. But that's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.